Hey fish friends, Zenzo with Tazawa Tanks, back with another video. Alright, so I've got a couple topics for today. So the first part of this video is me having to, well I didn't document it, but I had some fry in my 65 grow out tank, which is Peacock Taps and Mbuna, and I noticed that there was a female holding a few weeks ago. Wasn't quite sure if I was going to try to catch her, because it's just a, when you try to catch a fish, you have to take the whole tank apart and take all the fish out, and it's just it's a lot of work. So I ended up leaving it there and just kind of wanted to see if nature would take its course or what would happen. Didn't think the fry would survive, but anyway, I did notice a few days ago that there were some fry in there, and some kind of good sized fry, and there was more than one. So I figured, well, let me go ahead and try to catch these and grow them out downstairs in the basement in the fish room. So I just have a short little clip that will show you kind of where they came from and where they are now, so you can check that out. So this is the tank that I had to take apart to catch the fry. So I first noticed one of the Mbuna looked like she was holding. I wasn't 100% sure, as there's a lot of fish in here, there's a lot of rock work, etc. But looked like she was holding, and at the time, I really didn't feel like taking the tank apart. As you can imagine, it's a lot of work to catch one fish. So I let it be and just thought, well, if she's holding, then we'll see if she spits. She's still kind of young. So if she spits and the fry survive, then that's great. And if they don't, then, it's kind of, nature taking its course, so to speak. So I left it alone, and then a few weeks went by, and didn't see anything, and I saw her swimming around without any eggs in her mouth. So I thought, well, maybe she spit, and one of the other fish, the catfish or something, ate them. And then I started to notice some fry. So it first started off with one, and I kind of, didn't bother with the one for a few days, and then I saw some more. And after a while, I saw 3 or 4, good sized fry. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and try to catch them and take the tank apart and put them in one of the tanks down in the fish room and see if I can grow them out. So during a water change, I took all the rock work out, which as you can see, there's a lot of rock in here, so that was a lot of work. And then I had to proceed and catch all of the fish. Which is actually not that hard once all of the rock work is out, but it was still a lot of work to get everything out and then catch the fish and hold them in different buckets and then catch the fry. And then when I saw how many fry were in the tank, I was pretty surprised. I didn't get a count until I put them in a little jar, and I'll show you a little clip of that jar right here. So I put them in, it's actually a little plastic betta cup, and so I put them in the betta cup and counted 12. So there's 12 fry, and once I was assured that everything was caught, then I put the tank back together. So with a tank like this, it's a lot of work, and I'll kind of zoom in here. It's a lot of work when you have to take all the rock work apart and keep it wet, but also keep it from getting on the carpet, etc., and then having to catch a fish. It's a lot of work. So anyway, glad that part is done. If it happens again, I don't know what I'm going to do. This tank is going to be broken down again pretty soon as these fish are getting larger. Because they're going to be split up. So the Mbuna will go back into this tank, and then the peacocks and haps are going to go in another tank. So anyway, that's the clip of this tank and the excitement that I had. All right, so I'm down in the fish room, and as you can see, there are a bunch of fry. So I did count 12. There were 12 that I was able to rescue and pull out of the other tank, and I'm surprised they actually lived this long, because there is a Cynodontis catfish in that tank, and other fish, obviously. So, but I'm guessing there may have been more. But these 12 survived, so they were able to find hiding places and find enough food to survive for a few weeks. So, anyway, I thought I'd give them a chance and take take them out. So, which was a lot of work, of course. So now they're in here, and I'm feeding them crushed up flake food. I'm feeding them crushed up spirulina flake and then some omega-1 flakes. And I'm actually surprised. I'm wondering, you know, what they were able to feed on when they were in the other tank, as you know, most of the food that I was feeding the other fish, is larger in size. So they must have been just getting some remnants of some of the other foods. But anyway, so I will grow these 12 out, and well, I don't know what they are. They might be a zebra, but I'm not sure. So as they grow out, I'll be able to tell what they are, and maybe there'll be some type of OB or something, but which would be cool, of course. And then I'll decide if I'm going to sell these or give them away, or, you know, put them in another tank. So as these grow, obviously they're going to outgrow this 10-gallon, and then I'll move them to one of the 20s down here, maybe even the 40, because by that time my peacocks will be done with that 40. So, or I can just split them up into different tanks. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that little short clip of the fry, and you can see the tank that they came out of, and you can only imagine all the work that went into trying to catch those, and then they're fine now. So in the future, I don't know if I'm going to do that all again, and maybe just let nature take its course, and if they survive, they survive, and if they don't, then, you know, that's nature. So anyway, the next part of this video is well, we're getting into the summer months. You know, it's warming up in a lot of parts of the country. I've seen some comments on some YouTube videos. I've seen some questions in Facebook groups, etc., on what to do when the temperature rises, like if you're not home and your air conditioner is not on, etc. So there are three options that I am bringing to you today. There's a lot more options, but I'm bringing you three options. The first one is quite simple, and it's just a plastic water bottle. This is just a little plastic water bottle that has some like energy drink or something in it, and, you know, wash it out and etc. But you know, any plastic water bottle will work, as long as you make sure that the outside is clean. There's no paper and residue and glue on there. And you can just fill it with water. Just make sure that when you fill it with water that you leave some space, as ice expands as it freezes. The water expands as it freezes. And then you can simply just take this, plop it in the tank, and then over a course of hours, depending on how big the tank is, how warm the water is, and how big the water bottle is, the ice inside will melt, and thus cooling the inside of the tank without having the water that's in the bottle go into the tank. So if you you know, don't have access, if you don't want to have to, you know, dechlorinate water to put in a water bottle, or if you don't have well or RO water, you can just use regular tap water, because this water is not going in the tank, it's just a bottle. And then when it's melted, you can just take it out, wipe it off with a paper towel or a towel, put it back in the freezer and reuse, and you can use multiple bottles. The reason why I recommend this is it's slow melting, so you don't want to drastically change the temperature of the tank. So let's say that you have a tank that's maybe 84 degrees, and you want to lower it down to 81 or 80 degrees. You don't want to just pour a bunch of cold water in there, although that could work if it's dechlorinated, but that's kind of a rapid change in temperature. And depending on what kind of fish you keep, etc., you may not want to do that, where this is a lot more gradual of a solution, and it lasts longer. So I live in San Francisco. You know, it's June, and it's like 60-something degrees outside and foggy. So you know, I don't have this problem now. And every once in a while we get some warm days, but it's, you know, we might have 3 or 4 days in a row where it's in the 80s, and then it drops back down. So not really an issue for me. But if I did have an issue, I could just simply freeze some water bottles and put them in my different tanks. Now, the great thing is, you know, you can do this with multiple tanks, so I can just freeze a bunch of these, bunch of plastic water bottles, and then put them in multiple tanks. Depending on the size, something like this is going to be good for like a 10 or 20 gallon. Obviously, if like a larger tank like these, you're going to want either multiple bottles or a larger bottle. And just remember that when you put in a larger bottle or multiple bottles, it's going to change the level of the water. So you want to, you know, make sure that you adjust for that increased volume, so you don't want to have any overflow issues, etc. The next option is very simple, and it's just a fan. So this is just an inexpensive fan that I have around for, usually like this for drying the carpet when I spill water or something. But it's just, you know, a fan. You can get these at any big box store for, you know, $8, $10, $12. They're not very much, and you can set them up above your tank. And this is good for tanks with, you know, larger surface areas, and if you need to have kind of a sustained way of keeping the temperature down for a lengthy period of time. So the water bottle option is good just if you're in a pinch and it's kind of a heat spike and you need to lower it down for a couple of days, where this is kind of a more medium-term solution. So this is more for like if it's more than a few days, or if you don't want to deal with the water bottles, you can just use a fan. And the way that a fan works is you would take the lids off the tank and make sure that you have a large surface area for the fan, for the wind from the fan to hit that water, and that wind hitting the water is going to create evaporation. So the way that refrigeration works, and if you looked into like refrigerators and you know how refrigeration works and other cooling units, it's basically rapid evaporation is causing that refrigeration. So when you take that fan and you blow it across the surface of the water, you're getting evaporation on the water surface, and then you're getting a cooling effect. So it's going to cool the temperature of that tank by a few degrees. Now the one thing with this is you are going to have to top off more frequently because you do have the lids off the tank. So then you have evaporation there, and then you're blowing air on there, causing additional evaporation. So you're going to have to refill more frequently to make sure that your water volume doesn't drop too low. But this is another inexpensive option, and this is kind of more for that medium-term length of period when you need to cool your tank. The last option, hopefully I can pick this up here, but this is a chiller. This one is an Apex titanium chiller, 1/10 of a horsepower by Aquarium systems. It's quite heavy, you know, it's a big device, and these are not inexpensive. So these run $300 or $400 depending on where you are and depending on what size you're getting, but they're not inexpensive. But this is more for like a long-term or a permanent solution. So whereas the water bottles or the fan is good for a temporary situation, this is really if you live in an area where you need to ensure that you're keeping your tanks cool all the time and you can't rely on a fan or on a water bottle. And basically the way that these work is you would connect them to a inlet and outtake pipe with a pump, and the water is channeled through this chiller and then pumped back into a tank. And it kind of works the way that like a refrigerator would work, or the coils in like a refrigerator cooling system, or like a radiator. So this is good for, again, that kind of that long term. You need a solution for the entire summer or for half the year, or if you live in an environment where the water's warm all the time and you need to keep it cool. So if you live in the tropics or somewhere where it's, you know, 85, 90 degrees all the time and you need to keep your water cool, this is an option. Also, if you're keeping cool water fish, if you're keeping white cloud minnows or goldfish or koi, etc., this is another option. Obviously, if you're keeping larger fish, you're going to need a larger chiller than this. This is really designed for like a fish tank, not designed for like a large pond or anything where you're going to need a much larger chiller system. But anyway, those are just some three options I thought I'd share with you. It is June and it's warming up in a lot of parts of the country and across the world, in the northern hemisphere at least. So if you're watching in the northern hemisphere, you're probably going to be getting warm over the next couple of months. So if you do have some issues with temperature, hopefully these options will help you. There is a DIY option for the chiller. And essentially what you do is you buy like a small mini fridge, and you buy some copper coils and you connect it to a pump, and then you run those copper coils through that mini fridge and then pump it back into your tank. So essentially it's the same idea. It may be a little bit more cost effective if you have a mini fridge laying around. Although copper coil isn't cheap, it might be something that would work for you. So anyway, hope that was helpful, and hopefully you're not having issues with warm tanks, and if you do, then these are some great options. So anyway, thanks for watching. As always, please subscribe if you like watching these videos. I'll try to continue to make good content. Please give it a thumbs up, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.